With the best brand of football in Idaho, this is the 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we are breaking down the 8-man game week in and week out. It is the quarterfinal edition of the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast. My name is Brandon Bainey. We are joined, as always, by the coach, Lane Kirkland at Cary High School. What's up, Coach Kirkland? How are you?
Hey, doing well. Glad to be here tonight. Let's talk some football.
That's right. We were talking a little baseball before we hopped on earlier tonight. We were watching the World Series as we're recording this on Wednesday evening. And you admitted, Coach, you're not a huge baseball nut, but you'll tune in during the World Series.
Yeah, I always like watching finals. So it's good stuff. Competitive stuff is good.
And let's introduce now the guy who immediately took umbrage at that statement. It's our own Will Henneke. Will, what's going on?
I'm going to convert you, Coach Kirkland. I'm going to make you a baseball guy. I mean, I love football. I love hockey, but I'm a baseball coach. So we'll have you up when Parma goes to the 3A state tournament this year, and we'll sit and we'll watch it.
Beautiful. I have a Mountain Dew hat. And maybe you send me one of them Parma hats. We'll go.
Ooh.
Let's go.
I will make sure you have a Parma hat. I will make sure.
All right, on.
Yeah, Paul Kingsbury, the head honcho at IdahoSports.com. He's been like Kris Kringle lately, been handing out gifts left and right, Coach. He gave you that nice Mountain Dew hat. He got me this. Try and hold it up so everybody can see.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
A little Boston Red Sox framed photo collage.
Take that logo off the front, and it's not too bad.
So that's enough baseball talk. All the football fans are like, oh, come on, guys.
People have already logged out.
Yeah, we already lost the audience 2 minutes in. So it is the quarterfinal edition. And of course, last week was the first round of the playoffs. We always start the 8-man Prepcast with our game of the week. Maybe not the most exciting matchup on paper going in, but the game that just turned out to be the most exciting, fun, compelling, down-to-the-wire matchup. Will, we didn't have one this week. There was no game of the week because every single first-round game was decided by double digits at least. There was kind of a big disparity between the winners and the teams that didn't win in the opening round of the playoffs.
Yeah, even one of the games that ended up being close, Valley and Potlatch had to really work their butts off just to get back in the game. They were down 30-0 at one point, and credit to Coach Ball and his kids from Potlatch. They scrapped and they did their best to make things interesting. But when you're in a 30-point hole, even in the 8-man game, Coach, you can speak to that. You know, there are deficits that are very doable, and there are deficits where it's like, okay, we need a lot to go right to get back into this one.
Yeah, Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. 30 points is kind of a comfortable lead, so to speak, in an 8-man game. But to rally in the end there like they did shows they got some heart there and to continue to fight through and finish their season the best that they possibly could. Says a lot about the Loggers.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Coach, in the 8-man game, it's hard sometimes to figure out, okay, what's a safe lead and what isn't, because I mean, we saw with Clark Fork 2 weeks ago, down 20 with 8 minutes to go. That lead wasn't safe. So when did you as a coach, obviously when the clock hits 0, this is when you're finally able to relax. But in terms of score, margin, and time left in the game, was there a magic number where you felt like, okay, I feel pretty good?
Yeah, we always set it at 30. I set it at 30, and I really didn't allow my coaches to do any substitutions before we naturally hit that mark. Especially if it was late in the game and then we could sub if it was early. But 30 was kind of the number that I felt more comfortable with. But you never know sometimes.
You never do. So I kind of like 30 because, like I said, I've seen 20-point deficits evaporate like that. So 30 does seem to be a pretty good number. And there were certainly some 30-plus point victories that we'll get to. But let's just dive into it. We'll kind of go through each bracket, 1A D1 and then 1A D2. We'll kind of talk about the first round matchup. And then because everybody had buys, all the champions had buys, we can kind of preview, okay, this team won, here's who they play. It'll be a nice flow to the proceedings. So Let's start with that 1A D1 bracket. Again, your 4 district champions all received byes in the opening round. That would be Oakley from District 4, Notice from District 3, from District 2, that's Logos, and then from District 5 and 6, that is Butte County. Now, just because they were the top 4 seeds or the 4 district champions does not mean that they automatically get the top 4 seeds, as we'll find out quickly with Notice. But I wanted to start with that matchup where it's Notice, the 8 seed, playing Oakley, the 1 seed. Will Notice is a district champion, but because it all gets reseeded according to Max Preps, they were the 8th lowest out of 8 remaining teams. So for a district champ, they will have to hit the road and play at number 1 Oakley Friday night, 6:00 on IdahoSports.com. Good luck.
That's a really tough draw for Coach Woodland and the Pirates. They've been a little bit banged up all year. Gunnar Campbell, I don't know that he ever played at all. Benny Guevara missed time. They've been a little bit beat up, but to their credit, they still found a way to get it done. But now you got to go to Oakley. And, I mean, you want to talk about a team with almost an embarrassment of riches as far as ways that they can beat you. Kyler Robinson can pick you apart throwing the ball. Bryce Severe can run the ball. That defense is tough to move the ball on. It has the potential, if Notice does not come out swinging from the get-go, if they're tentative in the least little bit, that has the potential to be a game that can get away from them pretty quickly.
Yeah, how important is it for Notice to get off the bus and get rolling right from the jump, Coach?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely important to give their best shot right off the top and believe and just go for it and lay their best on the field to start with and then go from there.
I mean, nobody can say Notice isn't prepared. They knew, knowing what kind of district they were playing in this year. They challenged themselves with a hard schedule. They just played Valley in their regular season finale. Now, that's a game that Valley won, and then Oakley beat Valley, so you can kind of do the score comparison. But when it gets to the playoffs, it's a complete blank slate. It is a tough way for a district champion to go here, Will. Do you like this where, okay, you're a district champion, all you're guaranteed is a first-round bye. You may have to hit the road or be a lower seed. Or do you like, hey, you won your district and that means something and you get a home playoff game?
I think the bye is what means something because especially, and it's easy for me to say from my ivory tower over here, but when you are a little bit beat up and you are a little bit shorthanded, sometimes that extra week to just catch your breath and prepare for that quarterfinal matchup, that alone can be a pretty good reward, in my opinion.
What do you think about this, Coach?
I'm a favor of just playing straight through. I'd rather have had a game the week before to keep the engine running hot and rolling. But it will help, I think, Notice get a little bit more prepared to meet a great Oakley team as they go on the road. Oakley, the same as well, though, will be running hot. Even though they had a week off, and I know that they'll be excited to hit the field again and tackle somebody new and block somebody new, So it should be a good matchup, but I think Oakley is a favorite there and very hungry and ready to go into that bracket strong again.
Yeah, it should be an interesting matchup. I guess where I fall on this is it's cool to get the first round bye. I think if you're a district champion too, you should get a home playoff game. I think Notice being the 4 seed as the 4th district champion, I like that personally. It gives those fans one more time to watch their district champion team at home, but I think I'm probably in the minority on that sentiment. So if we've got Oakley and Notice both coming off of first round byes playing each other, that means we must have a matchup somewhere where 2 teams who played opening weekend will now face off, and it's the game right below them on the bracket line. Number 5, Grace at number 4, Kamei. Let's start with the Cubs because they came out and looked very impressive against Idaho City. They win 56-22, Coach. I mean, they were up 56-0. Idaho City scored 3 touchdowns late. Tel Jewell, Trey Martini, Ruari Mulry all scored for Idaho City late. But this is a Kamei team that's got really good balance. And look at some of the rushing totals here, Coach. Connor Weddle, 144 yards, 3 touchdowns on only 6 carries. Colton O'Kane, 117 yards and a touchdown on only 10 carries. Quarterback David Clute rushes for 75 yards and a touchdown, and he was 4 of 6 passing for 62 yards and a touchdown to Tug Logren. I mean, when you are averaging 20, 30 yards a carry, you're having short possessions, but you're building up that lead quickly.
Yeah, it looks like they took advantage of every play that they called. Every play was a good play, a solid play, a big play, almost a touchdown, it seemed like there with that quick scoring right there. And so I think that builds a lot of confidence in you for the next week, that your execution is clean, even though you know you're going to have probably a stiffer opponent. It does build some confidence and help you know that you can get big plays anytime you want, maybe against anyone.
And Will, we've been singing the praises of Porter Whipple all year long. I'm not sure there's a better defensive player in 8-man football. I mean, he showed up again. He finishes with 7 tackles, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery for the Cubs in this victory.
Oh yeah, he's a beast, and I've been in Cami's corner most of the season. Well, pretty much all season. Expected him to be here. I got to give my due to Grace against Carey in that first round matchup. I was really impressed with Grace. They kept Carey at arm's length. They made the switch to go to Gavin Draper at quarterback. He made some things happen, and defensively, I thought they did a really, really nice job against Carey and never really let the Panthers in too close, if you will. Going to be a little bit different story against Cami, a team that themselves has only given up less than 2 touchdowns per game on average, and you already went through the litany of ways that they can hurt you on offense. So I like Cami, but I think Grace is going to give him a heck of a ball game.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. Grace beats Carey 28-6 in the opening round last week. Coach, Carey scored late. Quarterback Preston Wood scored on a 1-yard touchdown run, but that came after a big 85-yard run by Stockton Sears and a touchdown saving tackle basically made it the goal line by Grace. But Grace made the move to take Braden Kimball, who had been playing quarterback most of the year, and they move him out to wide receiver. Gavin Draper, the sophomore, plays QB, and it works out pretty well. He ran for a score. He threw a touchdown pass to Kimball. He also threw a touchdown pass to Kobe Rindlisbaker, and then Wyatt Cutler scored on the ground to account for the 4 Grace touchdowns. But interesting late season move, and I don't know if it was Gavin Draper wasn't available all year long, and he just came back, or if this is a move they made. But it's always interesting when there's a quarterback change right when the playoffs start.
Yeah. I talked with his dad just a little bit at the cross-country state track meet, and he was pretty proud that his son had been awarded that position. I did watch the game film, and Gavin did look pretty smooth. He ran the option clean and well and looked like he knew what he was doing, so he must have been taking some reps somewhere along the way. But he did do a really good job there as a sophomore. So interesting move for sure.
And Will, this kind of seems like classic Grace. They like to play things kind of close to the vest. They don't want a lot of information about their team getting out there. This kind of seems right in line with that, right? All of a sudden you're preparing for one kid and it's another kid under center.
Yeah, and it worked. In this instance, it worked. They had to take on a team. Carey came in with a little bit of momentum. They made the switch, and they made some plays early to get the ball and to get those touchdowns. And then they just turned it over to the defense. The Cleggs, Kimball, Wyatt Cutler, I don't know what his official tackles were, but he had to be somewhere in the 12 to 15 range in terms of his tackles. Their defense, after a couple weeks of really taking it on the chin against Kendrick and Butte County, their defense answered the bell big time.
Now, this game will be played. It's Grace at Cami's Field, Friday night, 6 o'clock Pacific time kickoff. There was rumors all week. There's a doubleheader happening inside the Kibbe Dome in Moscow that we'll talk about. But the rumors were, that it was going to be a triple header with Cami. Well, Cami says, no, forget that. We want to play outside. We want Grace to come play in the cold and the wind and the muck. And Coach Kirkland, I mean, I love it. It worked for Cami last year when Butte County had to come up and play them. Can they get a win 2 years in a row over a team from the East playing outdoors at their field?
Cami is dangerous outside, aren't they? Man, they just do amazing things, and it has worked to their advantage. And I see it working again this year. just bring it to the harshest conditions possible and play manly football out there in the cold and the mud. And I think they're looking good. They seem strong. They seem steady. I think that's a key this late in the year, is to be steady with your offense and defense, and to hold opponents as to as few amount of points as they have. It says a lot. And I think Grace is going to have their hands full and have to really be error-free to come out with a win in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good matchup. I like Cammy at home. Grace has got to make the long trip. Plus, Will, there's the revenge factor, right? These two teams met in the semifinals last year in Holt Arena inside. Cammy had some turnovers. Grace took advantage. And so Cammy wants payback here.
Oh, absolutely. And they've had a tremendous season. You kind of forgot about them after they lost that game to Logos. They kind of slipped off the radar momentarily, but you look at what they've done all year, that's really their only hiccup. They have been outstanding other than that. And if your only blemish, if you will, is you lost to the number 2 team in the state, that's a pretty decent resume. And their defense has been incredible. They got a bunch of different ways they can hurt you on offense. And if the weather is inclement at all, which I know it might be around here in the Boise area a little bit, I don't know if that extends up north or not, up into kind of that central Idaho area. But if the weather is inclement, and I mean you're turning this into a Connor Weddle versus a Wyatt Cutler game. I mean, you want to talk about 1950s football. It's just power football, and then that becomes a battle of wills and a battle of execution. Coaches, you're so fond of saying, who takes care of the football? If the weather's not good and the track is not good, possessions are going to be at a real premium.
Yeah, so here's the weather forecast, guys. Cammy on Friday, partly cloudy. Temperature going to be in the 30s, maybe the 40s. Okay, that's no big deal. But starting Wednesday night and pretty much all day Thursday, it's going to rain. And it is just going to hammer on that field. And so will it be dried out in time? Hard to say, Coach. It could be a muddy mess.
It'll be interesting. I'll have to tune into that one. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. Let's just say get some extra Tide Pods to wash those uniforms when the game is all finished up for sure.
Or just throw them away. Or just say we're getting new uniforms next year.
Right. Okay. So that's the top half of the bracket. Let's go to the bottom half where Butte County is the 2 seed. They will take on Valley inside Holt Arena in Pocatello. This will be Friday night at 8:15. So it's the late game on Friday night. And this game will be on IdahoSports.com. I don't know if we mentioned, but Notice at Oakley will also be on IdahoSports.com on Friday. Valley beat Potlatch in that opening game. Will, you kind of touched on it, where they win 30-16. They built up a 30-0 lead. Potlatch then tried to rally late with a pair of touchdown passes from Jack Clark to Benton Breeze, and then a 73-yard touchdown to Ben Johnson. But they just ran out of time. It's one of those classic, if the game was 5 quarters, then maybe Potlatch has enough time to come back, but they just dug themselves too big of a hole.
Yeah, Valley did a great job those first 3 quarters. Potlatch is a good football team. You don't go up on them by, 30 rip on accident. And they did a really nice job, Josh Hardy managing the offense. Thomas Vargas had a great game. And if you haven't seen it yet, he has a fumble return, quote unquote fumble return for a touchdown, where he meets the ball carrier in the backfield, basically just takes it away from him, just pulled it away from him, and then ran 40 yards the other way for a touchdown. I mean, that's a big time play there. And Valley's been really impressive this year. I don't know, outside of Hazleton, that general area, I don't know how many people had high expectations for Valley. And this is a tough assignment. Make no bones about it. Butte County is legit. But Valley deserves to be here. They've played well enough to earn their way here. And I know that Sam Thorngren and his staff up in Arco are not going to take this opponent lightly.
Yeah, so Vargas, you mentioned, had that fumble return for a touchdown. He also scored on offense on a 9-yard touchdown run. Aaron Damian scores on a touchdown run, and then Josh Hardy throws a 9-yard touchdown pass to Nathan Christensen. So, Coach, we talked about all year, it's the Josh Hardy show, and Valley's saying, no, we've got a lot of weapons where Josh Hardy leaned on everybody else to make plays. So that's got to give Valley some confidence moving forward also.
It sure does, and great coaches make those kind of adjustments towards the tail end of the season, knowing that one guy can't really do it all, even though he can do a lot, that he's got to rely on his buddies there. And that's a good sign that Valley is making some of those adjustments toward the end there and ready to take on the Pirates. It's going to be a war over there. I know that Sam has those guys rallied and ready to go. I know they have a purpose and a reason, maybe it's greater than any in the state right now, to play hard. And I think that they're going to give them Valley's going to give them a good run, but I think Butte County is my pick in that matchup.
Yeah, of course, Butte County is rallying around Dylan Waymeyer, their teammate who continues to, fight the medical emergency he suffered in that Kendrick game several weeks ago now, and money's still pouring in, and schools showing their support. Even outside of football, Butte County played in some volleyball matches, and the opposing schools donated money, and the community outreach for Butte County is incredible. Will, the other thing I was encouraged by for Valley is they won a low scoring game, right? 30-16. Right. They kind of had the low scoring game with, I think it was Cary, right? 8-6 earlier this year, but otherwise it's been shootouts for Valley. And so because you figure Butte County's got a really good defense, and it's probably not going to be a shootout. It's probably going to be a low scoring game.
That's a good question. In that I think you're right. I think that Brian Ayers and his staff, they've got to be pretty pleased with the fact that they held a good Potlatch team off the scoreboard for 3+ quarters before Potlatch made their little push late. That's a very positive sign. But going up against Butte County, that's a tall order. That's another team that made a quarterback switch late in the year. Keaton Archibald coming in, Razor Duke switching into the backfield, but with Brody Westergaard and with Razor Duke, and you go up and down the list, they have a bunch of weapons too. So the key to the game might be, can Valley force Butte to go the long field, force them to sustain a 10 or 11 play drive, and don't give them those big gash plays where a game can turn real fast from 0-0 to 24-0 if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think we all lean Butte County in this matchup. The depth, the strength of the defense, the strength of the running game. But good luck to Valley, and we'll see if they can continue to surprise people on the road at Holt Arena. Our final matchup is also inside. It's in the Kibbe Dome in Moscow on Friday at 4:00. Little afternoon kickoff. It is number 6 Murtaugh against number 3 Logos. This game will also be on IdahoSports.com, gentlemen. I will be at this game on the calls, so I'm very excited to see Murtaugh for the first time this year with my own eyes. I've done Logos a couple of times this year up in North Idaho. Murtaugh played Lighthouse Christian last week, and if we were worried about like last year where they beat Lighthouse in the regular season and then lose to them in the playoffs, no worries. 64-26. Final score, Coach. They ran for 426 yards as a team, and it was quarterback Sawyer Young who led the way. He had 221 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's pretty good production from the sophomore quarterback.
Yeah, I listened to that audio cast of that game, and just called his name over and over and over again. And it's a 3-headed monster over there going on with Young and Benitez and Merrick. I mean, great attacks, great backs. Shifty and tough, and if one's not doing it, the other two are on it, and really some really good options, and honestly a really good line that's in front of them as well. I expect Murtaugh to do really well in this game up north. I think that they're hungry. I actually called old Jensen earlier today and asked what his thoughts were, and he says we are motivated and we are ready to go on the road here and prove ourselves, and really excited to play in a dome.
Yeah, Will, on the Lighthouse side, Justice Schrader threw for 170 yards, 3 touchdowns. Johnny Millenkamp caught 2. Case Van Leeuwen caught 1. Millenkamp also led the way with 93 yards rushing. But I think this was an eye-opener where, Murtaugh beat Lighthouse, but, let's wait to see if they really do it when it counts in the playoffs. Yeah, you can check that box, and I do think Murtaugh is a little bit of a team on a mission here.
Their mission is going to be, again, they were pretty good defensively against Lighthouse Christian. I thought they did a nice job containing. I know the weather, the elements were not 100% perfect, but their defense did a good job really limiting a potent Lighthouse Christian offense. And you get to Junior Benitez and you get Oscar Roberto along that defensive line. And I think they're going to have another tough challenge in the Kibbe Dome, and their chances to win, much like Valley, it may hinge in their ability to make stops. I think offensively, with Sawyer Young and Benitez and Merrick and Brody Funk, who we've mentioned in past podcasts, I think they have the ability to put up points on just about anybody. They're going to have to make some stops, though. They're going to have to make some stops because Logos, Jack Driscoll, if I had a vote, I think he'd be my 1A Division I player of the year at this point. The quarterback, the dual threat quarterback. As one coach from the White Pine told me, if you haven't seen them, Logos, and watching them on film, and Coach, you can speak more to this, watching them on film and then as a player being out there on field level against them, two different things. He said they do some things that are tough. They do some things that are tricky, and you're going to have to be sound assignment, and you're going to have to be a good tackling defense because Driscoll and that offense is pretty good.
Yeah, Coach, I know we talked about this earlier in the year. This Logos offense is sort of unique where they have 4 wide receivers and then Driscoll is alone in the shotgun. They'll have 2 slot backs off the line of scrimmage or on the line of scrimmage. And then the 2 guards will be off the line of scrimmage. And then they'll call a signal or a play. And sometimes both guards will go on the line and the slot backs will go off. Sometimes it's 1 guard on, 1 slot back off. Sometimes they bring a guy in motion and the slot backs wear like number 52 and like number 55. So it's kind of hard to keep track of. Are they linemen? Are they backs? It is an interesting offense that when it's running correctly is very difficult to stop. How does Murtaugh, face a unique look like this that they haven't seen in the regular season?
It always takes a little or a lot of extra time in practice to rep something new that you've never seen before. And that can be a distraction. You have to remember a lot of those different sets and who's dangerous and what kind of play is going to come out of those sets that they arrange in motion or shift, whatever they call it. And but they got a lot of bus time, a lot of windshield time on the way up. And if they're smart, they'll study that all the way up together and band together to prepare for a dangerous Logos team. It looks very fast, very efficient, and getting it done. My question about Logos is, have they been challenged enough to be able to meet a good match here and see what happens in a playoff style setting? And I think we'll find out here real soon.
Yes, this is another one of those measuring stick games for the conferences as well, where the White Pine League, in terms of max preps, isn't viewed as being as strong as District 4. Okay, so this is your White Pine champion taking on the second place team from District 4. This is a big statement for each of these leagues as well. And for Logos, this is their first playoff experience. Murtaugh has been there and done that a little bit, so that will be a factor as well. I think Murtaugh's game plan is simple: run the ball, run the clock, keep that Logos offense off the field, and we'll see. It's going to be a really fun game Friday, 4:00 inside the Kibbe Dome on IdahoSports.com. All right, those are our 1A D1 matchups. Let's shift over to the 1A D2 bracket where, well, there was some interesting stuff that happened, and we'll get to it in a second because we're going to move from the bracket top to bottom. So let's start with Hagerman shutting out Mackey 70-0. This was pretty impressive from Hagerman to come out. They basically just ran their offense, built up a big lead. Martin Gonzalez rushes for 5 touchdowns in the victory. Wyatt Mavenkamp, Kai Kendall each score a rushing touchdown. Mavenkamp throws a touchdown to Kendall, and then Mavenkamp also picked off a pass and took it back for 6. So this is another game that I'll be on the call for on Saturday as Hagerman travels up to Mullen to play Mullen St. Regis. Saturday, 1:00 Pacific time kickoff on IdahoSports.com. I'll be on the call for it. So I've been studying Hagerman a lot this week, Coach, and I've noticed that they've got a good group of players, but man, just about everybody starts both ways. So my question is, depth-wise, where are they at?
Yeah, this will be a new experience for Hagerman. Obviously, going this far on the road as well, and being in the playoff scenario. How good will they travel? How good will they be against another strong opponent? and Mullen St. Regis, who's been there over the last few years and has some experience. The coaches had some experience calling some plays and going through those games. So we'll see how well Hagerman will travel on the road there, and conditioning could play a factor into that with a few number of players on playing two ways. So if they condition well enough, they should compete pretty well with their size.
Yeah, well, it's pretty interesting where almost everybody starts both ways, and so they really lean on their top end players, but they're all really good. We talk about Wyatt Mavenkamp and Wyatt Hoskevek and Gonzalez and Kai Kendall and Alex Asher up front leading that offensive and defensive line. Yep. It's an impressive unit.
Yeah, I was really impressed with their performance last week. It wasn't, I expected them to win that game. I didn't expect them to win at 70 rip. I didn't. The fact that they went out and got it done and played as strong as they did with no lapses, with no letdowns, that speaks pretty highly of that group of kids. But, going all the way up north to Mullen, where, again, weather could be a factor. You've been there before, Brandon, when the weather has been less than ideal. That field can get pretty mucky, can get pretty muddy. And the Tigers, with John Pruitt and the freshman quarterback Connor Lulis, this is a team that knows how to play in inclement weather. They know how to play there. And it's a team that over the past several years has gotten just incrementally better. A little, okay, we stopped the skid. Well, then we move forward. Well, then we made the playoffs. Well, then we won a playoff game. So this is a team that they're not surprised to be here anymore. It's not a new story. It's not a novice. I can't believe they're here. This is a team that believes in itself. They have some history, they have some experience, and most of all, they have some talent, and they get to welcome Hagerman in. So I really like Mullen St. Regis's chance to get a win.
The weather forecast in Mullen, gentlemen, it rained Tuesday. It rained and snowed Wednesday, Thursday, partly cloudy, Friday, rain, snow mix, Saturday, a little bit of snow. We might have some snow flurries falling on Saturday, which I'm here for, as long as we're inside the booth. That's all.
That's what I was going to say. It's easy to be in for it when you're sitting, under cover.
I'll tell you though, last year I had to go up there to do that playoff game against Garden Valley, and the field was soaked, and you've got to walk across that field to get to the crow's nest, and my socks were soaked walking across that waterlogged field. I had cold feet. Yeah, I know. Everyone feels sympathetic for me, would you?
Very sympathetic. Very sympathetic.
Okay, here's the problem with Mullen St. Regis, though. I talked to their coach Stetson Spooner earlier today. They are down 5 starters and really 6 starters. One kid has never played this year at all, Austin Zingler, to the point where he's not even on the roster. But they're down Alex Trogdon, who got injured.
He's been gone for a while. Yep.
Caleb Park is out. Good two-way starter. They're missing James Rowe, who was a center and defensive end for them. They're missing Logan Pettit, who would be a good senior leader. And the most important guy to me, guys, is Blake Knoll, the 340-pound nose tackle that I think could really help Mullen St. Regis control the line of scrimmage against this power rushing game of Hagerman, but he's out. Coach Spooner says if we win this game, we might get him back for the next matchup, but we got to get there first. So this is a Mullen St. Regis team that is also with some serious depth concerns, Coach.
Yikes. That's a big lineup there that's out. That's really going to hurt, but they've still gotten themselves there, and I think they'll give a good battle and see where they end up. And the coach will have to do some tricky things there. He's already got some youngsters playing out there that are gaining some experience, and we'll just have to see how it plays out there in the snow. Sometimes those big bodies, though, in Hagerman, they get a little bit better traction. It's harder to get going, but once you dig in, you go pretty deep. But those cleats and big bodies seem to sometimes dominate in those muddy games. So
yep, that's what happened. That's what happened last year when Garden Valley went up there to play. In fact, Coach Spooner told me, he goes, I look at this Hagerman team on film, and it's exactly like Garden Valley that we played last year. And of course, Garden Valley came up and won. So I think for them, the game plan is John Pruitt, Kofi Apia are going to run the football. Connor Lulis, freshman quarterback. He's the stepson of St. Regis coach Jesse Allen, and he's only a freshman, but they say he's pretty good at taking what the defense gives him. And if he just plays within the system and doesn't try to, make the hero play, Mullen St. Regis thinks they have a shot. It's going to be tough. They're down a lot of starters, and Hagerman looks good. I think I'm going to lean the Pirates here on the road, but I would love to be proven wrong, and we'll see them actually welcoming Mullen after I made this prediction, guys.
I'm sticking with Mullen St. Regis. I'm a believer in what Coach Spooner has done there, and I think Apia and Pruitt, as long as they're able to kind of push that line forward 3 and 4 yards at a time, I think they'll get it done.
I did tell Coach Spooner he's a big fan of the show, and I said, well, Coach, whenever your season concludes, I said, we'd love to have you on to chop it up with us. And he said, absolutely. So, stay tuned for that as well, because Coach Spooner loves to talk about the 8-man game for sure. So that's our first matchup. Right below them, we have Kendrick hosting a game at the Kibbe Dome in Moscow, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time on IdahoSports.com. I'll be on the call for the game. They are hosting Dietrich. Gentlemen, Dietrich went to Council, the District 3 champion, last Thursday, and knock him out 50-28. This was such an impressive win for Dietrich, where Council actually scores first. Dalton Bingham scores on a 3-yard run, but then back-to-back fumbles on the next 2 possessions for Council allows Dietrich to grab the 14-8 lead. They never looked back after that, Will, and Dietrich kind of grabbed the momentum, and they never gave it back.
Yeah, Coach Estelle and his players incredibly opportunistic. Council had 3 touchdowns called back because of penalties. They had either 3 or 4 turnovers. Dalton Bingham, the top running back, the top offensive weapon for Council, missed a good chunk of the game, was injured and was out a good chunk of the game. And Dietrich, no reason to apologize for it. They just went up there and they took care of business. They played a good game and they got the win. It was a good win. Now, they're going to need to be opportunistic again against a Kendrick team that hasn't lost since Dwight Eisenhower was in office. And boy, I mean, I don't know what's left to be said about that Kendrick team that we haven't said, but Dietrich, they've got some kids that can play. They're not a bad football team, but they're going to need to be opportunistic again, very opportunistic, and cash in when Kendrick gives them something to cash in on if they want to score the win. Up in the Kibbe Dome.
Coach, how impressed were you with Dietrich's opening round win on the road?
I listened to that audio cast because I was very interested. I picked Council earlier because I thought they were doing well, and they have done well all season. But those mistakes and Dietrich capitalizing on those is huge, and getting touchdowns called back, taking points off the board. I mean, that right there is 6 touchdowns if you count those turnovers. That's a difference right there. And you got to add those things up, and you just got to be error-free against a team that knows what to do and capitalize and has been there in the playoffs over and over. And congratulations to Dietrich. I was very impressed with that win. Not surprised after hearing the amount of turnovers that Council had that Dietrich won. And they just know how to get it done when the playoffs come around, and got a good staff. They're intelligent. They're really smart dudes. They watch a lot of film, I know. But, congratulations to them, but also a good star on the forehead to the Council Lumberjacks for a great season. And I think they'll be back again for more next year.
Yeah, it's a tough way to go for Council, but they were the long pin champs. They finished the year 6-4. It was a great season still for the Lumberjacks. And now here's Dietrich 6-3. Kind of looking like last year's team. Connor Perkins, he ends up going 8 of 12 for 117 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 188 yards and 2 scores. So they've got the complementary pieces, Brody Torgerson and Wyatt Sneddon and Rain Rez and Chase Norman, but they really lean on Connor Perkins to facilitate a lot of the offense. And if Kendrick can key on him and get him contained, could be a long day for Dietrich. But this is a rematch of last year's championship game where Dietrich did almost beat Kendrick. So you never know, gentlemen. I still would lean Kendrick in this game, but Dietrich says, that's fine. You picked against us last week too. We'll just prove you wrong again.
Yeah, no, I would expect Kendrick to win this game, and I would expect them, Coach. You'll have to fill me in here. The parlance of, say Dietrich splits 2 receivers out. If I'm Zane Hobart, I'm putting my 2 corners out there man on man, and I'm putting the other 6 guys in the box. I'm playing a crowded front, and I'm basically saying someone other than Connor Perkins is going to beat me. And if someone else does, I'm going to tip my cap to him and say, job well done, but I'm not going to let Connor Perkins do it.
Yeah, I think the more frequently Coach Hobart plays a team, the better he gets against them. And I'm a victim of that. And in the end there, he's a great coach. They have a smart staff, and they will key on Perkins for sure. So if Coach Estelle has got some more rabbits to pull out of that hat there to get the ball to other players, I think he'll put that in the playbook this week.
Yeah, and of course, this is Kendrick's last year at the 1A D2 level. They're moving up classification next year. I was talking to Coach Spooner about it. I said, you guys got to be glad to be rid of Kendrick finally. And he goes, yeah, I don't know, though. We're getting Carey back. And so we're not like really thrilled about the trade-off because they're pretty good still. So that's how everyone is viewing it. Yeah, we're getting rid of Kendrick, but dang it, Carey's coming back.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
We're excited about that, but the Carey fans and coaches and players have really enjoyed playing in the D1 division with the level of competition. It has been a lot of fun, and we'll try to have a schedule a few more of those games next year.
Yeah, definitely makes you stronger as a program. Okay, last note on Kendrick, and then we'll move to the bottom half of the bracket. I did get a nomination for the all-name team here, guys, and it's somebody from Kendrick.
Hang on a second. Because there was a kid on that roster that I remember looking at his name and say, by God, if I ever have to try to pronounce his name, I'm just going to make it up. I'm going to call him like Jones or Smith or something, because there's no way on earth I'm going to be able to pronounce this. Is that the kid?
Yes, it is. Okay. And I got the pronunciation from Coach Hobart. So you guys tell me. His name is Rally Rotsisender. Rally Rotsisender, but a kid named Rally in the game of football.
Yeah, I think Rally gives him a definite in, but that last name is giving me PTSD, man. That's that's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, and here's how it's spelled, guys. I'll put it up on the screen because it is really it's a really interesting way to spell it for sure. But I liked the nomination, and I think it's probably a pretty good one. And especially, like we said, the name Rally. But
yes. When I was doing hockey, we signed a new player named David D. Castroza. And his first game playing for the Steelheads, and he played for the team, for my team, the team I was calling. I must have pronounced his last name 14 different ways. I had the yips, man. I saw it. And I'm like, God, don't pass it to D. Castroza or D. Castrizia or D. Casto. Just whatever you do, don't give it to 13. Oh, damn, 13 has it, and 13 scored. Now what do I do? So
I have never seen a name like that. That could go 14 ways right there for me too. Well,
that's a lot of vowels. That's a lot of vowels.
Roetcisondender, Rally Rotsisender. And not only that, Coach Hobart says he's a great kid. He's a sophomore and probably going to be a two-way starter the next 2 years for Kendrick. So what do you guys think? Seventh nomination?
He's just going to be Rally. He's going to be Pele, Messi, insert single name guy here. He's going to be single name guy.
All right.
Rotsisender, it just rolls off. Well, come on.
You can have it, Coach. You can have it.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we're in agreement, right? Rally Rotsisender, our seventh selection to the all-name team. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You bet.
Okay, that means there's one spot left on the all-name team with 3 weeks to go here. So we want to continue to get your submissions. You can send them to Brandon at IdahoSports.com. And again, the all-name team is Crash Taylor from Castleford, Razor Duke from Butte County, Lucky Matt from Lakeside, Rocky Sauce from Notice. We had Madden. What's Madden's last name, Coach, from Carey? Hertz. Okay, Madden Hertz. That's what I thought. I didn't want to misquote.
Like Perks.
Oh, okay. Perks. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Madden.
Carson?
Carson's little brother.
Gotcha. Okay. Madden Perks from Carey. We just had Rally Rotsisender from.
See, you're hesitating already. We just did an entire segment on it, and you're already hesitating.
And I'm calling the game on Friday, so I got to be ready for this. I'm going to be in the mirror doing reps. Ratsasender. So yeah, okay. We've got 7 names here on the all-name team, and we'll take one more submission from you. You can send them to Brandon at IdahoSports.com. All right, let's move to the bottom half of this 1A D2 bracket where Camas County gets the first round bye. They will host Garden Valley. The Wolverines go up to Clark Fork last Friday. They win 54-36 the final. This game was 21-14 at halftime, guys, and I was freezing. I was on the call for this, and I was like, hey, low scoring game. Maybe I'll get home at a decent. Then I looked at the final score. I'm like, how did this happen? 54-36. What happened here? Garden Valley played extremely well. Tacoma Kelly had 5 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdown passes, 2 to Max Yearsley, 1 to Tim Larson, 2 touchdown runs as well. Trevor Korn imposed his will, 2 touchdown runs. And then really the key moment, 2 key moments in the second half. Clark Fork was hanging in as much as they could. It was 4th and goal from the 20 for Garden Valley. Kelly just throws it up to the end zone to Yearsley. He catches it for the touchdown, just a total backbreaker. And then Clark Fork does score to get within 3 scores. They try to kick an onside kick. Max Yearsley returns it 55 yards for a touchdown, and that was kind of the dagger, Coach. But, man, this is a Garden Valley team that's got a lot of athletes.
Yeah, they just keep spreading it around, and those names keep popping up in different ways every single week. And Coach Yearsley keeps calling good stuff. I mean, 54 points is a good score there. And to rally and to stay in it and to be challenged all the way through and to come out with a win on the road, that says a lot about the tradition that Garden Valley has in the late in the bracket here. And they'll have to bring everything to bear in Fairfield this Friday and see if they can continue that.
Yeah, on the flip side, Will, for Clark Fork, Ethan Howard throws 2 touchdown passes to Chase San Roman, including 1 with no time on the clock right before halftime. Cole Mintkin scores 3 rushing touchdowns as well. And for Clark Fork, second year in a row, they've gotten to the playoffs, and they're building a program there in Clark Fork. I'm really impressed with what first-year coach Patrick Young was able to do with this group.
Yeah, nice little recovery down the stretch for them to get into the playoffs. And then, you know, they've got just on pure distance. I mean, Clark Fork, there aren't too many 1A communities in the state that are a tougher road trip, save maybe like a Chalice or a Clark County maybe. But that's, you know, you're going from Garden Valley practically to Canada to play a football game. That's challenging. And you know, they did a nice job working their way into the playoffs. They earned it. They deserved to be there. And they just couldn't handle. Garden Valley just had a little bit too much. Coach Jason Yearsley, Coach Kirkland, you mentioned it, did a nice job utilizing the weapons that he had, spreading it around, nice balanced offense. And, he's got a really good trigger man in Tacoma Kelly who can do a lot of different things on the field.
Yeah, and Garden Valley is missing a couple of key, receiver DB types in Caden Zimmer, who had a shoulder injury midway through the year and hasn't really been in the lineup since. And then Zaid Thompson as well, guys. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I don't know if he's got a club on his arm or what's going on, but he had an injury to the point where he ran cross country this year instead of playing football because he could still run. And then he joined the football team once cross-country season was over, but he still hasn't been able to. I mean, I didn't see him play at all on Friday night. I may have missed him, but missing those two guys, Will, it does put a little more emphasis on that running game with Tim Larson, the running back, and Trevor Korn, the fullback.
Yeah, and then Tacoma Kelly as well, calling his own number on quarterback draws and quarterback sweeps, but that's the value of depth. You never want to be that team that puts all your cards in on one guy, and Garden Valley hasn't this year, and as a result, quarterfinal football, it's a tough draw for them. They've already been there. They know what they're going up against, but they're still playing.
Yeah, they did play Camas County earlier this year, Coach. The Mushers won 50-12. What do you anticipate happening in this rematch?
I anticipate much of the same, to be honest. I think Camas is hungry, and they are prepared, and they know that Garden Valley is a threat. I think they know their opponent a little bit better now, and have had a few more games underneath them to get prepared for this. But I think they're going to bring everything to bear against the Wolverines on Friday and come out with another pretty decent victory, I believe.
Yeah, this will be a Friday kickoff, 3:30 in Fairfield. True home game for the Mushers at Camas County. And I was talking to their athletic director, Mike McCann. I think it was either last year or the year before. And he said they've really done a good job of getting the elementary school students, fired up about Musher football and getting them excited for, coming to support the team. And they'll form a line with the elementary school kids and the players will slap fives with them. And so it really is a culture that they're building there in Camas County as well. It's been pretty fun to watch this program. And yeah, I like them to get to the semis, certainly. And then at the very last game on the bottom half of the bracket, to me, is probably, this is the most intriguing one to me of this quarterfinal round, guys, where you've got Rockland coming off a bye, hosting Tri-Valley. Now, Tri-Valley beat Lewis County by 10 last week, 32-22. Lewis County actually led this game in the second quarter, 14-6. But the Titans score 20 unanswered points. They score, they get a turnover, they score, they get a turnover, and they score. And all of a sudden you blink and it's 26-14 Tri-Valley at halftime, Will. And Coach Monty Madrell said it after the game. We didn't take care of the ball as well as we normally do. And hats off to Tri-Valley for the win.
Yeah, those turnovers, obviously it's one thing to give the ball away, and then it's just the twist of the knife to then immediately give up a touchdown, and then to do it bang, bang, and have a game swing the way it did. And, a very different game from when these guys played a few weeks ago, and it looked like they were playing Tecmo Bowl against each other. It was just touchdown, 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 touchdown. This game, the defenses came to play. The coaches made some great adjustments. The teams just, they knew each other, right? The familiarity was obvious, and it led to a very competitive game. And the difference was those couple of turnovers and Tri-Valley's ability to capitalize on them.
Yeah, Jace Wagoner scores on a pair of touchdown runs for Tri-Valley. He also threw a touchdown pass to Clayton Harper. Harper and Gage Warren scored touchdown runs. Gage Crow, 3 rushing touchdowns for Lewis County. Coach, what do you prefer as a coach? Do you prefer seeing a team you've played before, or do you like facing the new, unknown, mysterious opponent?
I've always kind of liked the mysterious one, honestly. I've always felt a little more comfortable with that. Them not knowing the skill level, the toughness of my team in person, that kind of thing, and being able to just open up the playbook and just go attack right off the bat. Because sometimes that rematch is a little difficult, and you just never quite know because you learn a little more about each other, and kids think differently. I mean, we're 16-year-old kids here, but it's going to be an interesting matchup with Rockland and Tri-Valley. I agree with you there. I don't know which way that one's going to go. It'll be an interesting match.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because this game kicks off Saturday, 1:00 on IdahoSports.com, Will. And we know Tri-Valley's got speed. Gage Warren's fast. Clayton Harper, we know, is fast. Has Rockland seen a team this fast this year? I don't know if they have.
That's been a really good question. I believe they played Camas earlier this year, so they saw them. But if I'm not mistaken, Camas beat on them pretty good. But the thing that I've been really impressed with Coach Hunter and his team over there in Rockland is they've just progressively gotten better. And I was talking to a fan a couple of weeks ago who said basically the same thing you did. Who have they beat? And I'm like, and it's a fair question. It really is, because they haven't seen a whole lot of by perception, they haven't seen a whole lot of that top end. But at the same time, they haven't exactly been winning 14-12. They've been taking care of business in very impressive fashion more often than not. And that's usually what I look at. If you're going to ask me how good are they, I'm going to say, well, what do you want them to do? They won 60-12, or they won 58-20, or whatever it was. They're doing what a good team should do. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend, because I do think that this is a much more, there's a lot more levelness to this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how Rockland responds to that. But they have one of the great unicorns of 8-man football in Teague Matthews, a 6'5" quarterback who can beat with either his arm or his legs. Just a tremendous athlete, a tremendous player. And Tri-Valley, I think, is going to have their hands full trying to contain it.
So Rockland, we know, has gotten to the quarterfinals a lot over the years, but it has been, and we got this from Kip Wilson, who's an assistant coach for Rockland, and also coaches their track and field athletes, and he's a great guy. It's been 36 years since Rockland has been in the semifinal round. So Rockland's good at getting there, but taking that next step, guys, 36 years. He says the last time Rockland played in November, where the day of the date on the month was a double digit, so like November 10th or later. He said his wife was a junior in high school and a member of the Rockland cheerleading squad.
Yeah, and Kip would keep track of that. I'm sure that's an accurate thing right there. Yeah, Rockland has been in that bracket a lot that exited early, and I think it's really going to come down really to who wants it most. I like Tri-Valley speed. I like Rockland's determination, but really who wants this thing the most?
Will, where are you leaning in this one?
I'm leaning Rockland, but not by a landslide. I don't think it's going to be 70-8 or any such thing. I think, again, home field. It may not be the NFL, it may not be SEC football, but home field matters. And Garden Valley, for the second straight week, having to take a bit of a lengthy road trip to play a good opponent. I think it's going to matter, and I think Rockland will get it done.
Yeah, and another cool wrinkle we're going to be featuring on Saturday during this broadcast, Paul Kingsbury and Logan Green will be on the call. Rockland last week, coach, just won the 1A boys cross country championship by 2 points over Big Bad Victory Charter, a school that's got probably double the enrollment of Rockland. And so it came down to points from the Yeah, it could be triple. Yes. It came down to basically the number 6 and number 7 runners, and number 6 runner for Rockland just had an emergency appendectomy, 13 days before state cross country. And he got out there and gritted it out and got the 2 points that Rockland needed to get the win. How cool is that?
Yeah, I was there watching that, and it was really cool to see those guys compete and then to see the scoring afterward. But both great teams, great runners at the top, and great participation all the way around. But congratulations to Rockland on that.
Yeah. So at halftime of the football game Saturday, we are going to try and get Rockland's cross country coach for a halftime interview to talk about that incredible journey to their first cross country championship. It should be a good time, and even more reason to tune in on Saturday on IdahoSports.com. Well, gentlemen, we've set the table. We've laid out all the plates and the silverware, and now it's time to find out which teams are going to eat and get their fill, and which team's coming back to the table for seconds next week in the semifinals. Coach, it should be a really fun slate of games this weekend.
Yeah, it should be some interesting things go on, and looking forward to hearing and watching some of those for sure. I'm headed to ISU to see ISU and Weaver State on Saturday.
Okay. That'll be a fun battle.
Yeah.
They've got an 8-manner on the 2 deep there for Idaho State, Quade Renfro from Horseshoe Bend.
Yeah, you know what they call him, guys? They call him the Hammer from Horseshoe Bend because he plays
really?
safety. Yeah. Yep. Hey, and if I'm ISU, hey, Teague Matthews, come talk to us. Seriously.
He took an unofficial to Utah last week.
Ooh.
Top 10 in the country, Utah. So he's on some radars. He's not a mystery.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a cool deal. Well, enjoy the game Saturday, Coach. Be sure to tune into IdahoSports.com as you're traveling over. Will, 24 quarterfinal games going on across the state of Idaho, 5A all the way to 1A D2. IdahoSports.com is going to be broadcasting 17 of the 24 in some form or fashion. That's a pretty good percentage there.
That's a lot of clicking around for me over Thursday through Saturday.
That's right. And I personally am on the call for 3 8-man games, and that's it. No 11-man football for this guy. I'm leaning all the way in.
Okay.
I like it.
All right. Well, if you want to see the full schedule of games we're covering, all you have to do is click on the game streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. But until then, for Coach Lane Kirkland and Will Henneke, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the quarterfinal competition, everybody. And we'll see you back here next week for the semifinal edition of the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.